Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. Whew, Mark, I almost cracked on that one.
No, it was close. You almost sound like you're in a high school game. But man, what an awesome show today! And what a small world. Like the guy was practically your neighbor growing up.
Yeah, we just finished recording our episode with Manny. It's phenomenal. I almost cracked there. I was at the Springsteen concert last night, so I have an excuse. I'm not going through puberty again.
Oh, so that's why it's great. And you're going back tomorrow night too, right? Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
why
baby.
you're
We got
blowing
to
me
see
off
the boss
tonight.
twice when he comes around. He's 70 something, man. We don't know how many of these left we got. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm happy. Today's show was awesome, man. You know, we have Manny was on here, and we talked about a younger investor that has gone through some of the pain points on his first couple of buildings. But the one thing that we talked about this in the show, but the one thing that I love about his story is just taking action, the decision to take action, and that always impresses me with the younger investors. I think that's the difference between the people that really make it big or not. So.
well, yeah, 100%. You're gonna hear his story, but like he reached out to me cold on BP, right? He spent the whole summer with Chris following him around, and his first project to his third project is a huge shift, and he went and got John Warren. Like he went and built his team. You know, he took it upon himself to surround himself with the right people, and that's why he is where he's at today. He didn't complain about
Yeah.
the deal that went wrong. He didn't start saying real estate doesn't work. He didn't start blaming his first realtor. He went and found solutions, right? And it sounds so simple, but we all get stuck in this way of, I have a problem, I'm going to bitch about it, as opposed to go find the answer or go find someone who can be the answer.
He went from a very comfortable union job to quitting it in the middle of all this story. So it was a great story here, and I'm excited that to share this with all the listeners today.
Yeah, and then you mentioned, I kind of glanced over it, but I found out at our 200th our last party, our $300,000 download party. I knew he was from the neighborhood, but he lived exactly next door to one of my close friends who we stood up each other's weddings. I was like, oh, he said the block, and I was like, oh, this bungalow. I was like, yeah, you're one over from my friend Anthony Risa. So small world here.
It is a small world. Don't screw anyone over. Do the right thing.
Yeah, there you go. All right, what do we got for housing provider tip?
That was it. Don't screw people over. No, I'm joking.
I like
housing provider tip. Yeah, right now.
Save it for the next one.
Yeah, I will. I wrote it down actually. But this last couple of weeks we had some rains, and I think everyone needs to make sure that with their insurance, they understand what's happening with if they get rain backing up into their property. You know, in the city of Chicago, you have a larger problem of we get these crazy rains. Rain doesn't have anywhere to go because we have so much blacktop. Sewage system's 100 years old, and it backs into your basement. It might even go down right away, but it leaves a lot of damage. And most of the time, that is not covered on your insurance. So if you have a basement that's prone to backing up, or if you have a rental unit in your basement, a garden or a basement unit, make sure you know what's going to happen. Because the last thing you want to do is think that water backs up. You got a unit, you got to put a tenant in a hotel. You think your insurance guy, you just got to pay $1,000 for your deductible, and that's not the case. You don't want to be blindsided by that. So make sure you understand where your risk level lies when it comes to water in your basement.
Good tip.
Yeah, I see people get burned by it all the time. So, all right, man. Today's guest, we kind of already brought him in a little in that intro, but younger guy. He's got 3 or 4 deals under his belt. He's a licensed GC, so we'll dive a little more into that as well too. He brings a great amount of energy and a great amount of quick start. We call that in the business just a quick start, the ability to take an idea to concept as fast as possible. And without further ado, I want to introduce Manny Escarpita. So Emmanuel, man, excited to have you on here today. I think you and Tom know each other already, right? If you're both Portage Park, or what's the connection here?
Yeah, we actually both grew up in Dunning, probably, I don't know, say 5 blocks away. We found that out at the 300 download bash.
Yep.
But yeah.
I'll say there's two cool connections here. So one, he grew up on a bungalow and he told me the street, and I was like, wait a minute, my buddy's house was one bungalow over. So I texted him, and we put the 2 and 2 together. They're literally one house over from each other, which is hilarious. But more importantly, and this is probably more important to our listeners, about 2 years ago, Manny reached out to me on BP just saying, hey, I'm looking to get more involved. What can I do? And we had him working with Chris on some of our projects. So, you spent that summer going to like 4 or 5 different job sites, and hopefully it was somewhat beneficial. And we've stayed in contact since then. But again, cold reach out on BP, and, you got to go out there and grind. Like, it's another example of, taking action instead of sitting and waiting for something to happen.
Let's start there. Let's start there, though. That's huge to bring up, because you do what a lot of people wish that they would have done. So talk to me about the mindset. You know, I think maybe it's 2018 or something like that. Like you're a young guy, like you haven't been doing this that long, but you've done some really great things in the time you've been doing it. But talk to me about the mindset and what made you reach out. Was that, did you reach out to him first and you got it? Did you have to reach out to 50 people before? Go a little deep on that.
Sure. Yeah, it started. So if you don't mind, I'll start with my first deal. That way,
Go
first deal
ahead,
leads
do it.
up
We'll
to
bring, it'll
reaching
bring
out.
some context.
Awesome. Yeah, so the first deal, 2018 started looking, 2019 finally closed on a 2-unit in Kilbourne Park. Um, you know, all the energy in the world, ready to get this rehab going. Thought I knew it. A little bit of background about myself, union carpenter. So, having these skills, I thought I knew. I thought I knew more than I really did. So, started getting in there. Closed on the property. Started rehabbing it. Quickly realized I was way over my head. Rehab, completely missed it. um,
Are we
I
talking
listened
like
to my
2x? Like, what are we talking? What's a miss? Go ahead and be honest
um,
with here.
so I think I budgeted 40, and I think it went to like 55. But $15,000, when that's all you got,
Yeah.
that's a big number. Um, yeah, so uh, pretty much listed my parents. 15-year mortgage. Had a mortgage payment of 3,500 while I'm rehabbing. So holding costs were off as well, obviously. So yeah, a lot of rented out to friends and family. A lot of learning lessons on my first deal for sure. So that kind of brings me to reaching out to more experienced people on BP and trying to just ask for some guidance, see where I could help them and get some knowledge from them.
Well, that's awesome. So, real quick, let's go back to that 2-unit though. You still have that guy?
Yeah, still got it. Still got it.
Still got it. Is
It's
it performing today?
it is yeah, absolutely performing today. Um, yeah, it's been doing great. Uh, Definitely got to jump in there and raise the rents because the rents have definitely spiked in that area. But yeah,
Yes.
What,
Go ahead, Mark.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't want to we don't talk about this that much about the mentorship piece, and like, I think there's two things. There's one, having, I'm just gonna say the chops, or to actually go ask people or find people, and then what you actually take from it. So, like, what were you hoping to truly get from it, and what did you actually get, and did it exceed your expectations by actually being mentored, I guess?
yeah. Like it was it helped tremendously in like every way possible. Just talking to somebody, um, doing the same thing, and I don't know. You almost think of them when you're hearing these podcasts and reading these books. You almost think they're like super smart, intelligent people, but really, when you start connecting and networking with these guys, they're normal people just taking action. So that just having relating, um, pretty much realizing that they're human too, that helped a lot. That to be able to be like, if he's doing it, I could do it too.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I
So
agree
it
with that
boosts your confidence.
100%. Like, one of the things that stuck with me is, when we had Casman on, and I look up to John Casman. He's killing it in the multi space. And
Right.
I remember he was on here and he was being very open with us, just talking. He broke down and cried when his flip was just off the freaking rails. Like, here's a normal guy who, like, you know, you would think like in all the apartment buildings he's crushing, and it's like, just tell us about how this is just so effed up that, and like everyone's in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, all of us, we're human beings, like you said, that all make a ton of mistakes.
Yeah, Joe Fairless too at the Midwest Summit when he told his really
No.
Great example.
grassroots story about his first
Yep.
apartment complex that he lived in, so he could, like, it was just the humanity of doing that. Actually, it gives you confidence that, man, if he could do it, like, not and all these people woke up and had $500 million under management.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, just seeing people like that, having been through the struggle that I was currently in was huge, huge to be able to relate there. Um, yeah, so um, I could talk about like the positives on that deal too, because I feel like real estate is very forgiving. At the end of the day, it didn't end up being a bad deal. Like you asked, Tom, it very forgiving for sure. After putting in some sort of equity, I got it appraised. got out of that 15-year mortgage that I should have never been in. Got it appraised. Came in, I think, $100,000 in equity. Was able to get rid of my PMI on my FHA. And was able to utilize my FHA again because of that reason.
Time is the asset. Time is
Yep.
the asset.
Absolutely. Mindset going into the property, I was just, saving up because I knew, so my dad owned a couple rentals, so I knew it was a good thing, and over time it was very beneficial. But their mindset was a lot different. So he said, 15-year mortgage, him and my mother said 15 years mortgage, get it paid down. So I thought that was, the right thing to do at the time. And payments were very, very high. So holding costs, were ridiculous, a lot more than I thought. Other than that, I just thought, I knew it was something I wanted to do. Sometimes I didn't do the homework prior to my first deal. And that's where I got burned a little bit on that one, for sure.
Do you typically get a lower interest rate on a 15-year, or is it higher? Or is it the same?
You do, but I mean, it was probably a quarter at the time, and when they're in the 3s and 4s, I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, you typically do.
Well, I think you always have the option of principal pay down instead of that. If you got to be disciplined, obviously. Some people like the 15-year because they have no choice but to pay it down faster. But some people, like if you're able to have discipline of, for me, for my personal residence, every month when the statement comes in the mail, I only get it in the mail for one reason, to trigger me to go pay a principal payment down 1/12 of what I put towards it every year. And usually I don't pay anything off sooner, but that's more of like if something ever happened to me, my family, it's that much closer to being paid off mindset.
Yeah, I feel like at the right point, it's a good, but I feel like starting off, leveraging those 30-year fixed rates. Why not? Why not? Especially, and at that time when it was in the 4s and 3s, it was a good time to take out some long term.
You gotta take advantage of that stuff. I took out the 80/20, the 105% finance, like all that stuff like back then, just to give me. It was getting the property. Then you do what you do with it is where you make your money. So.
Yeah, well, going back to what you said, Mark, like let's say that paying it off in 15 is, you're retiring in 15 years or whatever. Like there's the legit reason to be on it. You could always take the 30 and send more. Like just protect yourself. You never know a worst case scenario. Like you always have to think of that black swan event of, okay, even if I'm going to do this, let's make sure I'm covered. Right? Real estate has been proven to work. The people that if you get caught without liquidity though, that's when you get that's how it doesn't work. Besides that, though, it works. Yeah. Like you can mess things up left, right, up and down. It does work. You just can't get caught. You can't be caught with no money. So, all right. So, Manny, what happens after Kilbourne Park? Right? We get the 2-unit. Great. You start looking around at some deals. Where do we go from here? What's next in the journey?
Sure. So, actually, at that point, after getting done with it, I knew I had to do, just reach out to as many people as I can. Learn from people who have made mistakes already, so I don't make the same mistake. So I found John Warren on BP as well, and he pretty much, long story short, he became a realtor, helped me double check the numbers, pretty much just helped me get into my second and third deal, actually, and fourth deal. But second deal, pretty much another FHA loan, another house hack, East Humboldt Park, and when I say east, it's like very east, and the 606 trail. But it turned out to be another great property, man.
Who'd you work with as a broker on the first deal, or it wasn't John Warren? I guess maybe we want to drop names in there.
Sure. No. Just all you gotta know is it was Redfin.
Okay. And, well, I'm going somewhere with that because I was assuming that you wouldn't have switched if it was a great experience, but. What was the difference like working with someone like Redfin or someone that's not an investment-minded broker to working with someone like John Warren? Like John Warren, we all know is wonderful, but like tell us like what you got out of that as the buyer.
So on the Redfin deal, my first one, just very the guy was awesome, but just felt a little transactional and just not so helpful when I had questions about numbers and he had no experience actually doing what I was trying to do, house hacking. So it was pretty much a lot different, a lot better with John, obviously, but it was very transactional and didn't feel as good when I was at the closing table. with the first guy, with Redfin.
I imagine you're a little more scared and a little more like not. There was. I imagine John just held your hand that much more too with all these different steps.
Absolutely, absolutely, he did. Felt a lot better at the end of the day. And then quickly after that one, probably within 8 months, I got into my third deal, which John helped me with too. So I want, if you don't mind me getting into this one. This one was kind of a game changer for me.
Let's hear it. All right. So real quick though, so we have
Sure.
you get the first duplex. You go to East Humboldt. We reuse our FHA there, right?
Correct.
All right. And this one sounds like it goes smoother. Like confidence levels, gone from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10, right? We're feeling pretty good about ourselves.
Yep, absolutely. And like always, there's like learning curves on all of them. I feel like, but definitely a lot smoother of a process. So when I start feeling comfortable, I kind of want to, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I kind of want to experiment and get into something, challenge myself. So this deal's cash flowing, got to rent it out, house hacking in it. And then I get to my third deal, decided to go with hard money. 100% wanted to do the BRRRR strategy. John was a little hesitant on getting me with his hard money guys just because I don't know, I kind of like to jump into things, but yeah, we made it happen. He recommended a great hard money lender, and yeah, I got into my first BRRRR. So just some numbers on the deal.
Where is it first off? Where
Sure.
are we talking?
Sure. So this is West Logan, borderline Hermosa, so right there on Pulaski and Fullerton, that corner right there.
That's very border.
If you need windows, you got your place right there.
Yeah,
very border, very border. Comps are nice though. You pull them up east.
It depends if you're selling or if you're buying, which neighborhood you're in there.
Yeah. So rehab. So purchase price was $370. Rehab budgeted about $60K. Bathroom, kitchens, that type of scope of work. And yeah, I a lot of learning curves too with hard money, between lien waivers and just completely different process from funding your own deal. But ended up coming in at 675. That's a praise. Yeah, it was great feeling. I like finally felt like I actually did something huge in my eyes. The first two were great, but this one was like definitely a game changer when you see that much equity built in there. From that point, kind of knew I was gonna quit my job. When you see that much equity coming in, I don't know, just definitely a game changer on your mindset for sure.
Hard money. I mean, you said it was very different. Talk to us a little more about that. Like, what was your expectation? What was different? How many lien waivers you have? Like, kind of go into a little more about like how that was. Was it scary? Was it easy? Was the guy you worked with? You don't have to drop any names. Were they difficult? What were their expectations up front?
It was they weren't difficult at all. They're called Armitage Street. Small local guys. Wasn't difficult. It's just learning curves. A lot of more paperwork involved than just going and doing your thing. Yeah, I mean that was basically it. And other than that, pretty easy. Just a whole nother level of investing, obviously, than your typical house hack. You got holding costs. Would it be vacant? Typically, if you're using hard money for a vacant property. Yeah, once you start making the draws, it goes up as well, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to call out one thing here, and then got a few questions. But the biggest thing that I think people miss in this scenario is not just the holding costs; it's you are still fronting money to keep the project going. You are still buying the cabinets. You're still buying the fridge, the appliances. Like you're still doing that. Sometimes with the contractors, you got to pay these guys, and they're not coming. Inspectors not coming out for the draw for another couple days. Like you just need that additional liquidity to keep the project moving. And then you get reimbursed very quickly, but you still need to have that capital. And people miss that. They calculate holding costs, they calculate a little bit of overage, but they don't calculate working capital. And if you want to do this for a living and you have multiple projects going on, it's, you need 6 figures sometimes just to like keep these things, chugging along and not having delays.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was a huge, huge learning curve too. having that, initial capital to get the job rolling is huge to having your numbers, which I didn't. So a lot of learning curves. You know,
Yeah.
pretty much.
So it sounds like this deal's a home run, though. I'm curious, when they first did, like, you got your appraisal on the front end, right? When you bought this thing for the hard money, what was their ARV? Like, what were they telling you, like, they expected it to come back at?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Who?
And when you go to purchase this, you get, you have the hard money loan. They gave you some sort of ARV, right? Like, they said, hey, cool, like, you can do this 60K
Right.
rehab. We think at the end of the day, it's going to come out at X. Like, what was that number? Because the number you got, it sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, so me and John, they actually asked me. Me and John came up with a 600K ARV on this one, and yeah, they agreed that it looked good. But yeah, we were surprised by the 675 for sure, all of us.
Yeah, and then another question here, like, is this the benefit of, hey, they're pulling comps from the east, right? I have a lot. I know this Pulaski Strip pretty well. I got a lot of properties with a 40, 4019, 4025, like right there on the other side, and it's nice because they pull comps from the east, and you might get a little bit of an inflated value compared to what's reality.
Right.
One of the nice things
No,
about being on the fringe.
Yeah, absolutely. But like within the last year, I've been looking at comps, and like now they're definitely there, even in that area. They're extremely high. But yeah, another thing that I definitely helps. And you guys have said it before. I put together an appraisal packet. With all the renovations I did, all that. Met the appraiser there. Obviously, you gotta be a little nice to him. Make sure he's having a good time throughout the process. Make it as clean as you can.
So no, we just, by the time this airs, yesterday we just recorded one with an appraiser, so that one will air, and it's the same thing over and over, man. Like, take control of that situation. So hats off to you for stepping in and doing that, and not just letting the process play out. Like, you have a voice in that situation, and you need to use it.
It only works beforehand. It doesn't work after it doesn't work as well after the appraisal gets.
It doesn't
completed.
work after. Like, we learned that.
Right? No, definitely not. Definitely not.
All right, so how, like, we get that appraisal back? Boom, you're feeling great. All your money's returned. You probably could take out some cash if you wanted to, however you wanted to play that. What's going through your head now? Like, and where I'm going with this is, anytime I've done this, the next deal is my worst deal because I'm overconfident and I take a risk I shouldn't take, or I just feel, everything's perfect, right? So your risk tolerance goes up a little bit, and which could be a bad thing. That's me personally. Let's see if you shrug that off.
So I want to talk about the refinance part for a little bit.
Let's do it.
So I was working with A&N Mortgage, George LaGuardia, and he had that portfolio refinance on the cash out. So they would cash out 85% of that. To LTV, 85% of it. So I actually made 70K on that cash out refi, which definitely, my levels of thinking I know everything were up here, but yeah, that was a great one for sure.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't. I mean, you took your lumps, man. Like, you go over budget. You put the right team around you. You get another one under your belt, and then this happens. This doesn't just happen overnight. This doesn't happen in a year. This happens after multiple years. Like, I just want to hammer that point home. Like, this, the more you go at this, you got to put your lumps in. You got to put your bats in. So, hats off to you on that. And I will say, those guys at A&N, like, they have that 85 cash. I don't know where they're at now. If that's still probably at 80 now or whatever. But on the purchase side, they still have the 5% and the 10% down. I just had one of my buyers leverage them, so they're pretty aggressive over there. And we can link to them in the show notes.
I think the most dangerous thing for any investor is to hit a home run like he did on the first one. That's what happened to me. Like, I got my first deal done and made way too much money, and it's the worst thing that could ever happen. So if anything, it was better that it happened even on the third time. But even for me now, we just had a big one. I'm like, oh man, I should do more of these. It's like, no, you just got lucky, man. Like, I have to talk myself back into the you got lucky conversation.
Yeah, it works both ways too. You have one to go bad. You're like, F this neighborhood. It's like, well, no, like we ran hot over budget. This is us. This isn't a neighborhood problem.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we get through the refi. This thing sounds like it's cooking. What happens next? Are you where do we go from here?
Yeah, so from here, I found another property in the area of West Logan. This was a little bit more up east. So I'm on Ridgeway Avenue and like Wrightwood.
Okay.
Yeah, so same thing for now I'm confident with it, got it rolling. Yeah, it was a really great experience as well. Like everything, a lot of learning curves. But yeah, it priced a little bit under, so left a little money in the deal, but couldn't complain too much. I could give some numbers if you guys are good with that.
Our listeners would want to hear it. Let's hear it.
Awesome. So John helped me with this one as well. We found it was on the market for I think 350. We negotiated down to 312. It was sitting a little bit. Put about 100K into it, and it priced at 577. Was a little shy for my number at 600, but can't complain. Can't complain.
Yeah, that's a deal you take all day long, man. What are you in for? With your holding costs, with the closing costs, you're all in at what, 450, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, right there.
And
those are good
numbers. Out at?
577. Super specific
Yeah,
number.
Your
but
net
yes,
worth just went up
577.
100K. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Definitely adding up to the network. Only issue is, so I quit in between these two deals. I quit my job right before I started my fourth one. So got hit with nice surprise of DSCR loan. So definitely cash flow went down, but we're still able to make it happen, obviously. But yeah.
In hindsight, would you have waited? Like, was this like, were you like, screw it, I want to quit anyways, I know what I'm getting into? Or was this like, in retrospect, man, I should have held out for a few months just for the financing?
I mean, I wish I would have held off, but I don't think I would have been able to, tackle that deal down. While working at W2, I GC'd it myself, and I might have been able to, make it work hiring somebody, but the nights and weekends things wasn't going to work for this one.
So you quit your job. That wasn't a quick thought, and did it. That was something you probably think about for years. Like, how long were you in the union? Your union. Most people go in the union for life, right? Not many people go in and come out. Like, how long were you in there for? Like, how long were you thinking about getting out? Like, talk to us about the quitting part. What led up to that part?
Yeah, I was in 10 years. It was really that third deal that brought it to light that I could do better, in real estate. That brought that confidence to keep it going. And cash flow was, I knew with this fourth deal, the cash flow would be able to, subsidize the income I was bringing. It wasn't, it was a little bit lower, but I knew I could do better things with my time.
What did you do leading up to it to plan? Were you being conservative? Were you figuring out how skimpy you could live? Like, what was there any of those thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Just kept house hacking is a huge one for me. That definitely helped with confidence. But yeah, no, definitely a lot of fear of do I have to go back? Am I gonna have to go back? Am I gonna have to fight for my job back? So it's definitely thoughts that you have.
Married?
In
Kids?
your mind. Nope.
Okay, so that makes it easier. That definitely makes it easier.
Definitely makes it easier.
You
Definitely
appreciate that, Tom. So you quit and you knew that you could do better. That decision is such a huge one. And there always is that I could always go back and do blank. So for me, I remember it was like I always live on my parents' couch and I could always go work in trucking. Like those are my two like things that in my mind I thought about like as your catch-all. I think anyone that's out there considering quitting, those are what you have to think about. What's your worst case scenario? I could go do blank, and usually it's a roof over your head, and it's a way to make income, and it becomes a much different conversation if you're married. But sometimes that's even easier because worst case scenario, you have to live off your wife's income, and she has to be okay with it. But those are tougher conversations that I've never had to have. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being single helps.
So you had rental income, and that wasn't gonna help you find the future wife or anything like that. Like, what was your thoughts on money? You were a tradesman. Like, where'd you go with how you're gonna actually make a living then going forward?
The rental income definitely helped, but yeah, I ended up getting my GC license around that third deal, getting my GC license, doing pretty much jobs for friends and families, but it led up to me trying to get some more active income, and I got into flipping. Um, just finished 2 flips, got 2 more on the way, and yeah, pretty much that's what I've always wanted to do. So yeah, that pretty much led up to me jumping right into it.
So you said you're going to start making income from being a GC. GC license. I don't think we've ever talked about it here. I mean, that's just going online, filling that out, paying the $300, sending a picture
Paying your
ID,
parking
and
tickets.
paying all your parking tickets. So you find out quickly how many parking
I,
tickets. My partner
I did
Brian, I
not
think
know
one
that.
year had a parking ticket from 1984 or something like that. We had to pay. It's
Oh,
crazy.
that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
But that's a fairly easy process, and that's what you did to go get your GC license to become official, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it was that simple, like you said. I didn't know the parking tickets one. I'm glad I didn't have to pay any. But yeah, that was basically it. Obviously, I've been around in the industry, so it made sense for me um, to go ahead and get it.
So you started doing jobs for friends and family. Have you gone out? Have you been to work with other investors? Have you where are you going to take that part of your life?
So the plan is to eventually start doing things for other people, but I just feel like my time is spent widely on doing my own flips. Just because you're kind of cutting out the middleman in a sense. So yeah, right now I'm focusing on my flips. They've been doing good. Like leading up to this, I've learned how to run comps and find a good deal. So yeah, as of now, I'm just focusing on my own deals, getting them done.
And so, Manny, we talked a little about this at the soiree last week when we are face to face, but flipping on the north side is tough. It's super competitive. There's end buyers looking to buy some of these properties that aren't purely distressed. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking, you know what, I want to start flipping, right? They see HGTV and they think this is so easy, this is so awesome. Like, what advice would you give? Someone you cared about came to you and said, I'm going to start flipping. Like, what's the first couple of things you say? Okay, did you think about X, Y, Z?
Yeah, I mean, I would pretty much just explain how I do it in my process. Obviously, I'm my own GC, so that helps a lot. I just tell them to bet
Are you
and
licensed
find
on the
a
back end too,
great
or no?
GC on the back end. As
Are you
far as
licensed? Like, are you
yeah,
selling your own stuff too, or no?
Realtor.
oh no. On the realtor side, no, I am not. But it's a goal for sure. Um, so pretty much I would just tell them to find a great GC, and vet them well. Go check the job sites, make sure they're showing up, the quality's good. Those are huge things in flipping and in burning. The number one complaint I hear from investors is my GC screwed me. My GC, walked out on me and took a bunch of money and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much what the advice I would give on somebody trying to get in the flipping game. Number one.
I love that person that complains about my general contractor took the money and didn't do the work. It's like, well, you gave him the money when you already knew they
That
didn't do the work. So making sure that you're just a little tip out there, make sure you're paying people for what they've done already, not what they say they're going to do next week.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, what are we doing to find deals now?
Um, you know, it's been you. I've been trying to reach out to agent outreach, reaching out to selling agents directly, trying to negotiate that way. Um, that's been pretty good. And doing that, I've actually met some wholesalers, um, and they have brought me deals. They're it's home investors. I met one of those guys, and they tell their guys, and yeah, so I've been able to find some off market stuff that way. Um, yeah, just grinding. Still on the MLS though, running numbers, trying to get some deals there, but it's tougher than it was for sure.
So, Manny, what would be, forget about inventory for a second. In your ideal world, like, how many flips would you do in a year? Like, what's a good number? Let's say you had the inventory. Like, what's a good number where this is good profitability and I'm not losing my hair? Like, it's
Uh,
workable, it's manageable.
Yeah, the not losing my hair. I don't know if I can get around that one, but for me personally, I would say like 3 deals for sure would be very manageable for I think most people. Right now I've done two and I plan on doing another two, but haven't found out the not pulling out the hair
Well, maybe
just yet.
maybe that's why you and me don't have hair. We're doing
Yeah,
two
it's gone,
different
baby.
ones.
After your ex stop work order, it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Um, what and what type of rehabs are you focusing on? I know it's kind of like, hey, we'll take what we can get here, but is a lot of this, the cosmetic bath and kitchen? Are you trying to do guts, or is it just, hey, the numbers work, I'm gonna go get it?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's been more cosmetic, bathroom, kitchen, new cabinets, flooring throughout. I found success in that, so sticking to it until I feel comfortable doing, additions and things of that nature. Trying to run the numbers on those, and it's just not making sense for me. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much, trying to trying to have the same criteria and just keep it going as far as I can. It's working, right? So don't fix what's not broke. What isn't broken. Sorry.
Well, you're a pretty driven guy. You've done a handful of things. You've made decisions to take action, which is awesome. A lot of people would admire that. What's the few like? What's your end goal? Like, do you have a plan? Are you trying to achieve a certain amount? Are you trying to achieve certain buildings? Are you trying to achieve I could never work again? Talk to us about what your ultimate plan is.
Yeah, the ultimate plan for me is definitely in the multifamily, commercial multifamily space. Um, I I have always, wanted to get in there. It's obviously harder. Down payment's a lot larger. So the plan is now is, keep doing flips so I could fund down payments, or possibly just partner up with some people with experience on the commercial side. Um, the main reason I'm kind of leaning more towards this in the next upcoming year, the DSCR rates are a lot higher actually than the commercial. I found out. So definitely looking to get into some bigger commercial deals.
Yeah, commercial rates are good right now. I mean, we're recording this in mid-August 2023, and we're getting quoted 6.5 when homeowners are getting quoted seven something.
Yep. Uh, yeah, and I met a couple of bankers at Summister A, and yeah, they told me the same thing. So definitely eye opener that I need to get start planning to get in there.
All right, so we're looking to tackle multifamily. What else, man? Like, there's got to be more than just, hey, I want a big building. Like, what else is next? Wait, and let me ask you this: like, are you staying on the north side? Or are you going to start expanding?
Um, on the commercial side, I think I'm open to expanding. Maybe do a little, target some areas with some more cash flow. Um, Especially on those bigger ones, they just to just put in your numbers. Make sure you got, an on-site, property mat or on-site maintenance guy, whether he's part-time or full-time. And yeah, you can make that work as long as you have, a team. You could expand for sure.
So, Manny, what would be? This has been very successful, right? Like, it at least from a third party or objective party looking in. Like, you've taken action, as Mark mentioned. You've had some pretty decent wins here. You no longer have the W-2. I think a lot of people, you might be sitting here being like, oh man, like I keep scratching, I keep doing it. But a lot of people would want to be in your shoes right now. A lot of our listeners would want to be Manny. We always ask the question at the end, but I want to explicitly ask it now. Like, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give to, Manny from 4 years ago who is looking to get into this space?
Yeah, definitely. I think doing your homework is great, but just don't let it end there. Take action. You got to go make some mistakes. Um, it's part of the process in any business. Go make some mistakes, and you're gonna learn on the way. You don't have to have it all figured out.
How much homework? Like, what's a good due diligence? Like, maybe relate to what you did. Like, would you have tell us how long you kind of looked at before you bought your first building, and would you have done more, or could you have done it faster?
Um, there wasn't as much due diligence and homework on the first one for sure. That was before I kind of started figuring it out. Um, but yeah, that's a really good question. I don't want to say until you feel comfortable because you're never gonna feel comfortable. But yeah, just get a good team around you. Once you have that, I think you're good to go. Good realtor that'll help you run the numbers. Good lender that gets creative when when he has to, and yeah, good. And for other people who aren't their own GC, find a good contractor. You know, pretty much what I would say is the time to jump in when you have that team.
Well,
You'll never like. I like how you said that though. You'll never be 100% comfortable, and it's almost like if you're not like that's almost makes you sometimes feel like, I think there's this feeling in your stomach of like, oh, this is nerve wracking. I've never done this before. Something could go wrong, and then there's something really messed up here. I can't go forward. There's two different feelings in your gut, and you just got to make sure that you're paying attention to the one that is just like nervous because you should be, because you're about to take down a $500,000 project and your first property, and you're doing a whole bunch of stuff like that. You should be nervous.
yeah,
Absolutely.
you should also live outside your comfort zone, right? Like it should be. That's part of it. If you actually want to expand, you got to take that first leap, and that first leap is going to feel uncomfortable.
No one ever like was on their dying bed and said, "Man, I wish I would have been in my comfort zone more." I wish I would have stuck in my comfort zone more.
We gotta start coming up with these T-shirts.
Yeah. That's great what you said, Mark. That like not feeling you get, you need to like learn the difference from am I just nervous or is this actually a really a bad deal? But yeah, learn the difference.
So what? One more, and then we'll wrap here. Let's talk about estimating rehabs, right? You got the background. You've been doing this for a while. It's still hard to do. Someone comes up to you and says like, how do you estimate something? Are you going by, hey, I know a kitchen for me costs this, a bath costs this? Are you going by a per square foot? Like, give us the high level view when you walk into a house. Like, how are you coming up with just those high level numbers on the spot?
On the spot, it's you could always go by square foot depending on what it is, duplex or single family. They're a little bit different, but something more on the full gut. I'd say like conservatively 75 a square foot is good, but I like to get a little bit. Obviously once you start getting into it, by bathroom, kitchen, depending on what the scope of work is, by sheet even on the drywall side, depending what it is, get more in detail on that side. But yeah, I could get into details, but there's a lot to the estimating side. I think a good rule of thumb for somebody who's looking, 75 square foot. But definitely, the way to do it is get a GC in there and walk the property with you.
Okay. I guess let me ask you, like, when you're doing it, are you saying like, okay, tile is this per square foot? Or are you just saying, hey, I know it cost me this much to go to bathroom? Just for your own experience, when your own property, not even for a client, for your own experience, you're walking a property. How are you coming up with these numbers to see like, hey, I might offer on this thing?
Yeah, definitely. From experience, a bathroom cost me this much a gut. With this, the labor is the same for the most part. With a certain type of tile, whether it's $3 or $4. I pretty much from that point I get my numbers for bathrooms and kitchens, and that's pretty much how I go. Paint, per square foot is a fair way to go. But yeah.
Cool. Mark, anything else?
All right. No, that was good. You got a lot of good information there. We appreciate you coming on here. So I'm ready to wrap.
Let's wrap it.
Cool.
All right, Manny. What is your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while so many others wish they could?
Just taking action, being relentless, and it's coming around and like hurt me sometimes, but it's definitely I'd rather take it than being an overthinker. So yeah, just taking action and figuring out on the way.
Taking action is really a overall umbrella of making decisions quicker. Do I do this? Do I not do it? And,
Yeah.
and once you get better at decisions, you'll be able to take action faster.
Yeah. All right. I was impatient and already asked this, but we want to keep the flow of the show the same. Give us the one piece of advice you would tell someone you have to buy their first property here in Chicago.
Just take action. Start networking. that's gonna that's gonna help. That's gonna definitely help you take action. Start going to these meetups, listening to this podcast, and yeah, just get involved. There's so many great people that willing to help you out there.
Yeah, it's so true. I think Lance, who's been helping us with the podcast, he came in. He wants to learn it all, and just talking to people at these groups just kind of helps him just understand. And like you said earlier, Manny, like not everyone is put together as they might even seem. So it actually helps other people come real that you could be like that too. All right, cool.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
I don't have that much time these days, but I actually really enjoy going to these events when I have time. Networking with like-minded people is awesome. I love it. Other than that, just like going to new restaurants in Chicago. There's so many here in Logan and the surrounding neighborhoods.
All right, we're going to expect to see you at Fiesta on 47th coming up in October.
Very good. All right, what is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our listeners?
A book I've been reading is Raising Private Capital by Matt Fairclough. It's kind of relating to what I'm trying to do now. So it's been a great read for sure.
Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
I mentioned John Warren, but Ivan Hernandez with Hernandez Roofing has been awesome lately. Been reaching out to him a lot. Definitely mentoring me and helping me out along the way.
Both podcast guests in the past, and John Warren, if you're listening, we do have your 5-timer award still. For anyone that was at the 200th episode, we used Tom's basketball trophy, and we still haven't tracked down him to give him the actual award. So it's coming.
Manny, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Follow me on social media under Manny BRRRR. Up for Instagram and Facebook, Manny Escarpita. Providing value, reach out. I'm welcoming a lot of like younger investors if they're trying to get in. We can help we'll figure out how to help one another.
Good stuff.
Love it.
All right, Mark, Chicago Fact, who are we playing for?
All right, we're paying for Ivan Ramirez, who bought a T-shirt. Ivan, if myself or Manny get this question right today, you'll get a $50 gift card brought to you by our sponsor today, Perry Farella from First Community Mortgage.
All right, very good. All right, I'm going to change. It's a little bit different format, but you can do this, Mark. And Manny, I'll let you help him out, but Mark, it's first shot here. So I mentioned earlier, Manny grew up just off of Mobile, one of those M streets in Chicago. I grew up just one street over at Merrimack, where my parents still live to this day. So Mark, this is a big homework question that me and my friends would easily be able to answer. Let's see if you can do it. In the city of Chicago, can you name me 8 streets that start with the letter M? Any 8 out of like the 45 that are there. They don't have to be my little pocket. They can be anywhere.
Oh, okay. Mozart, Michigan, Monroe, Madison,
There's a few down like the Pullman area.
Maryland.
Yeah. You got an angle running street that's pretty obvious. 2 angle streets. One named after a famous person, one named after a city.
Manny, any help here?
Manny, jump in.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, jump in.
So Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee.
Merrimack.
Woo!
Mulvina, right?
Yeah, Mulvina,
Mulvina,
Moody,
yeah,
Meade,
Mulvina
McVicker, Menard, Monitor, Manila, Mango, Major. I'll get you all the way to Central, baby.
Wow.
All right. Well, Ivan Ramirez, thanks to Manny, he came in here and saved me naming these M streets. And you get a $50 gift card brought to you by First Community Mortgage, Perry Farella. So, Manny, that's awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, the famous person, I was thinking MLK Drive.
Yeah,
that was my other Pullman one for you. Good job getting Maryland. That street doesn't exist that long.
No, it goes pretty. Maryland starts up in the 4,000s. So, awesome. All right, man. Thanks for coming on today, Tom. Thank you as always, listeners. 3 words: build your team. Check it out. I was talking to one of our clients this morning or one of our team members that's on Build Your Team, and they were talking about a couple of success stories they had already here just in the last couple of weeks with people helping them solve problems that they came to them with that they couldn't solve elsewhere. So check it out, straightupchicagoinvestor.com, build your team. And thanks for coming on here, Tom. Thanks as always, listeners. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.